Welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be reviewing Avengers Endgame from 2019, directed by the Russo brothers and starring Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Chris Hemsworth. Before we begin, I just want to give a huge shout out to Movie Micah. I decided to do this review for him because he's been one of my hugest supporters, and I've seen his list of his top 25 favorite films of all time, and Endgame was number one, so I decided to review this movie. So thanks, Micah, and good luck on your channel. As usual, we'll be starting with the good. And the best thing about this movie is an obvious answer, which is obviously the final act. The final act is one of, if not my favorite third act of any movie in cinema. There's so many great moments in this movie. All the best MCU scenes come from this movie. We got Cap versus Cap, Tony meeting Howard, Steve seeing Peggy, Captain America wielding Mjolnir, I Am Iron Man, Avengers Assemble, Tony Stark's funeral, and Steve's dance with Peggy. There's so many great moments, and I think this movie is it's tied for my favorite movie of all time, currently with Return of the Jedi. So I obviously love it very much, and as I think Thanos is a really interesting and great villain for the MCU, and he gets to wear his awesome golden armor from the comics. And that Mjolnir scene was really awesome. And the Assemble scene is my favorite scene in all of the MCU, and one of my favorites in all of cinema. It's just a really cool scene. There's so many great moments. As I said, it's tied for my favorite movie of all time, so you know that I love it very much. The cast is great as always. Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. to be specific. The arcs get closed out properly, and I would call this movie a masterpiece. But in every movie review, there's something bad. So, I had a lot of trouble coming up with what was bad, but after I think about it, clearly I thought that the pacing wasn't quite as good as Infinity War. But nonetheless, this is like my favorite movie of all time, tied with Return of the Jedi, and I really love this movie. So yeah, that's about it. With the bad. Now it's the final part of my review before the final score, which is going to be the acts. Act 1 starts off with great action with the head reference, and then it slows down for a bit, which is needed for a movie like this. Act 2 gets the time heist. We get Cap vs. Cap, Tony meeting his father, Captain America seeing Peggy again, and we get a lot of things that we always imagined, and we also get like Black Widow's sacrifice. The third act, as I said, is one of my favorite acts of all time. It's just really great. So many great moments. Act 1 gets 8 out of 10. Act 2 gets an 8.5 out of 10. And Act 3 gets a 10 out of 10. Now it's time for my final score. After everything I've said about this movie, you probably already guessed what score I'm going to give this movie, since the third act is amazing. All of the acts are amazing. I love the final battle, and it's tied for my favorite movie of all time. So it's obviously a 100%. In my opinion, Avengers Endgame is a must-watch that everyone should watch at least once. It's an epic conclusion to one of the best movie franchises of all time, and it does not disappoint. The final act is one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. The arcs are closed out perfectly, especially with Captain America and Iron Man. Those arcs are perfect and closed out perfectly, and in my opinion, Avengers Endgame is a masterpiece and deserves a 100%.